Hey folks, it's Kimberly Crow, and we are back with another episode of Entrepreneur Experts Cafe. If you haven't already met Michael Whitehouse, you probably met somebody who's met Michael Whitehouse, because Michael Whitehouse is the community building genius or expert. So welcome to the program, Michael.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Super glad to have you. Thanks for carving time out of your day to be with us. Before we get started on how you became a community building expert and what that is and how we can become one ourselves, tell us how you became an expert in this particular area.
Well, sort of stumbled into it. I've always been a fan of communities. Even when I was in college, I landed on a dorm floor and I was like, oh, we should bring these people together and do things. And I was worried about the dynamics and making sure everything flowed well, which I realized was a silly thing to worry about in retrospect because it's a college dorm. The dynamics will be a college dorm. But my first business out of college was a game store. It was wildly successful, except for never making any money. But it was a community space. So it was successful and it brought people together. There were people who told me, I'm more comfortable in your store than I am at home. So I built something very powerful in community. And it almost comes out of, I'm not really great at keeping track of individual friends. Like I'll forget to call my friends for 6 months or forget that they are my friends. But if there's a community, if there's kind of a pen around us holding us all together, I'm really good at taking care of the people around me and building something like that. So as time's gone on, I realized my instinct is towards building those kinds of things. I built the elite networking group that way, the entrepreneur mentor community. And people started to say to me, you seem to know a lot about building communities. I'm like, really? I guess I do. And then they started saying things like, could I pay you to teach me how to build communities? And I said, yes, you definitely can. So that's how I sort of wandered sideways into community building.
Well, I love it. All right. So if we want to build a community around us, what are some of the key steps that we need to take in order to make that happen?
The most important thing is for me, it's instinct. So I have the instinct to do it. That's a terrible answer. It's to really care about the people that you're bringing together. So if you're like, I'm going to build a community to make a lot of money, unless it's a community for us all to make a lot of money, it's not going to work because it's going to feel like you're taking, that's more of a cult than a community. So I describe it as a group is a bunch of people where they all care about the same thing. And as a community is a bunch of people who care about each other. So you want to create a community of people who care about the same thing to create a group and then create dynamics where they can actually get to know each other. One of the most powerful things that makes this happen is small groups. So if you look at, for example, some larger churches, some of these mega churches, what really ties them together isn't the guy standing at the front of the stadium talking to 10,000 people, is that these churches have hundreds of 8-person Bible studies in them. And so people become part of that. If you look at an army, armies are made up of squads of 6 or 12 or whatever. And when they ask soldiers, what kept you in there? Was it fighting for your country? And they're like, no, I forgot about that. When the first bomb started falling, I wasn't thinking about that. Was it your orders? No, it was the guy next to me. It was the guy next to me I was looking out for. And this is true, from war to church to, Rotary, 1.2 million members, 32,000 clubs, and people are there for their club. When people quit Rotary, they're not quitting Rotary International, they're quitting their club. So it's all about creating the small groups and then making sure that those small groups, and I don't have time to go into details, but making sure there's mechanisms. So if there are disagreements or whatever, people can move out of those groups to other groups and so people don't quit the club. But it's about creating those individual human connections. Remember, people can only really connect with 150 people. So if you're building a community of 10,000, you have to do it at a scale that our primitive monkey brains can handle. And we can't handle being part of a 10,000 person community.
Well, I know that's true when you, and it can be everywhere. It can be in colleges where you may like the subject, but you really love the professor, or in work, right? You don't work for the company, you work for your boss. And if you don't like your boss, that's one thing. And if you love your boss, it's totally different, right?
Yep.
And the people around you, right? The people who are also working beside you in that organization, are they fun to be with? Do they take things seriously like you do? Do they not take things seriously like you do? you? Are they people that you can bond with? So building the community goes through all aspects of our life, whether it's spiritual or emotional or familial or communal, in the physical realm right around you in your household, right? So if you don't like your neighbors, then you got to find community elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally love this. All right, so if people want to get a hold of you and find out more about how they can become a community building expert, what can they do?
Well, the best way to connect with me is go to my website, guywhoknowsaguy.com. And through that, right on that website, they can get onto my email list. Or if they want to get more direct access, they can sign up for my open virtual coffee. So every Friday, I'm no longer at the point where I can just have people get on my calendar, but I blocked out a space where any week people can drop in and meet me and connect and get to know me that way. And then from there, I can redirect them out into whatever part of my community and universe that they would best fit into.
I love it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Entrepreneur Experts Cafe. I'm Kimberly Crow. Before we let you go, Michael Whitehouse, any final words for our crew?
Community is fundamental and foundational to the way people come together. And for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, we lived in villages that were community size. Now we live in much larger institutions and societies. But so we don't have it organically. We need to create it. But it's one of the most vital and powerful things you can do is building communities of any kind.
Very nicely said. Words to live by. All right, folks, we'll see you next time on Entrepreneur Experts Cafe. Cheers.